Welcome to our episode on implementing JWT authentication with Golang. JWT, or JSON Web Tokens, is a popular method for securely transmitting information between parties. In authentication, JWT tokens are used to verify the identity of a user. In this video, we'll be going to learn quite a few things. To build and sign JWT tokens. Create cookies and use them to send the token to the client. We will learn to validate the tokens as well. We will implement a middleware to validate the token and authenticate an API. In this episode, we will use an app built using Gin Gonic, and we will use GORM to interact with the DB. Let's begin. Here we have this application. This API cast blogs renders this HTML page with a list of blogs. We will add JWT authentication to restrict access to this page. For user registration, we have this page that renders a sign-up form, and we have a similar form that lets the user log in. Now let's look at the code. Here we have two APIs related to the resource blog. This API lists all blogs on a page. This one shows a blog with the provided ID. These two APIs render the sign-up and login form respectively. These post APIs are handlers to the sign-up and login form submission. This API logout is used to log the user out of the application. Let's see what this handler does. It simply renders the sign-up template. The login page handler does the same. It renders the login template. This is the handler that is called on the sign-up form submission. This structure is used to receive form parameters. The form has two parameters, email and password. Here, we bind the form data into this variable data. Next, we check if the provided email is available. If the email is already taken, we respond with bad request status and an appropriate error message. If the email is available, a new user is created. This model function is called. This method internally hashes the password and stores it in the DB. We have explained this in detail in episodes 29 and 30. It takes email and password as arguments, and it returns the created user. If the user creation fails, respond with bad request status. This is the interesting part. We will create a JWT token, sign it and send it to the client using a cookie. In the end, we will redirect the user to the blogs page. We need to install the JWT package. Let's do that first. Here is the GitHub page. Let's see how to install it. Copy this command and paste it here. Now we have the package installed. We will create a new token. Let's see what the documentation says. Here is an example to build and sign a token. Let's copy this code and paste it here. This method, new with claims, creates a new token. The claims are defined here. We need our own. We will store the user ID. The value would be the ID of the user we just created. We will also store the expiry time, or TTL, which is the time to leave. We will use this in token validation. Let's keep the expiry time 100 days. Time.now. Add time.hour. 24, which is equal to 1 day, into 100. Let's convert this to Unix timestamp. Now, the token is created. Next, we need to sign it. For this, we are going to use signed string function. This function requires a secret. Let's create this secret. For now, we have hard-coded the secret value in the code. This is not good practice. We should move this to an environment variable or in the configuration file of the application. We have covered these topics in episodes 17 and 31. We will keep our focus on JWT and move forward. If there is an error while signing the token, return from here with an appropriate message. Now we have the token which is signed. Next, we will create a cookie. Set same site on the context. Lax mode means the cookie is not sent on cross-site requests. Now, we use setCookie method to add a setCookie header to the response headers. The first parameter is the name. We will name it auth. The next parameter is the value. The value is the signed token. The third parameter is max age, which is the expiry time. This expiry time is for the client or the browser. Let's put the same TTL. The next argument is path. Let's leave it blank. We leave the domain also blank as we are testing on localhost. Secure is false, but in production environment it should be true and you should be using HTTPS. Set HTTP only to true. Now we have the cookie ready. This cookie is sent with the response. Let's look at the login handler as well. Similar to sign-up, the form data is read into this variable. This model function user-match-password matches the hashed password with the stored password in the database table and returns the user if present. If there is no user found with the provided email and password, we return from here with 401. Now we need to create and sign a JWT token and create a cookie similar to the sign-up handler. So let's move this code that creates and signs a JWT token to a separate function. Let's call this Create and Sign JWT. This function should accept the user object and return the token, which is a string, and error. Let's return the output of this function as it returns signed token and error. Now, we call this function in the sign-up handler. We made a mistake in the signature. This should be a pointer. Similarly, let's move the creation of the cookie to a new function. Now, we will replace the cookie-related code with this function call. Let's copy this code to the login handler. Looks like there is an error in the code. Let's go to this red mark. This imported package should have v5 as we have installed version 5 of the package. We made another mistake in the code. The secret should be a slice of bytes and we have given a string. Let's fix this by converting it into a byte slice. Let's try the application. Sign up works. Let's check if the cookie is created. Refresh the page. And here is the cookie that came with the response. It has the fields that we have set in the code. Let's remove the cookie and hit the blog's API. There is no cookie, but it still works. We will restrict access to this API using Gin middleware. A middleware can be used to tap the request before it goes to the handler. We can restrict access to the API if there is no cookie or an invalid JWT is found. Let's create a new directory called middlewares. Create a new file called auth.go. The package would be middlewares. We will name our middleware auth middleware. It takes Gin context as the argument. At the end of this function, we call the next function to pass the context to the next middleware or the handler function. Let's implement the middleware now. Here, we are going to retrieve the cookie from the request. Then, we extract the token from the cookie. Next, extract the user using the user ID from the token. We have missed a step before this. We need to check the expiry of the token. After we find a valid user, we set the current user in the context so that the handler can use it if required. We will begin by reading auth key from the cookie. This returns the value of the key and the error. If there has been an error, we respond from here and return. We need to respond with unauthorized status and set the message. The next step is the JWT token extraction. We will parse and validate the token. Let's go to the documentation. We will check this example for parsing and validating. Let's copy this code and paste it here. The parse method accepts two arguments, the token string and a function to look up the key. If the signing algorithm is different, we return an error here. Else, we return the secret key and nil for the error. This secret key should be a slice of bytes. Let's copy the secret we used to sign the token and convert this to a byte slice. We already discussed this shouldn't be hard-coded like this. If there has been an error, we should return from here with a proper status. This line retrieves the claims in the form of a map in the claims variable. In case of the failure, we return from here. In the claims, we have two keys, the user ID and TTL. Let's restructure this block. On error, we will break the flow. And on success, we will continue the execution further. Now we will check if the token is expired. Compare the TTL with the current time. VS Code shows a couple of red marks, declared and not used. It is because the claims variable's scope is within this block. We will move this out of this block. If the token is expired, we return from here. Now we will query the user from the DB. Claims of user ID gets us the ID of the user. Let's see if we have a model function to get the user from the ID. Here it is. Let's use it. If no user is found, return from here. Now we will set the user in the context. We set data in the context with set method. Our middleware is ready. Let's add the middleware to the APIs. The middleware can be added by chaining it before the handler functions like this. We will do the same for the BlogShow API as well. Let's try it now. Refresh the page. And the page still renders. The status code is 401. Let's look at the server logs. It says headers were already written. Wanted to override status code 401 with 200. This looks like a problem with our middleware. It is not breaking the chain. We should replace return with abort. It breaks the chain. Try now. We will try to log in. There is some problem. Let's look at the server logs. We tried to convert the interface to INT64. This is the location where we did this conversion. Let's fix it. Let's typecast this to float 64. We tried to do the same with the user ID here. We tried to convert an interface to an unsigned int. Let's replace this block with a GORM query for a quick fix. Try to log in now. It works. Let's check if it sends the cookie. Refresh the page. Here is the cookie. On this page, I would like to see the email of the user who is logged in. Let's add a logout button along with it. Let's go to the blogs controller. Here, we will send the user details to the view. We have set the user object in the context in middleware. Let's read that. It returns the value and a boolean that shows if the data exists. The user is of type any, so we will convert it into the user structure. Let's make the changes in the view. Here, let's add this text that shows the email of the user. Let's add the Logout button. The Logout API is of type HTTP delete, so we will add a script to send this request. Now, on a successful login, we show the email of the user here. Next, we will implement the logout functionality. Actually, a preferred way to log out is to add the JWT token to the list of blocked JWT tokens. Here, we will take the simple approach of changing the expiry time in the cookie. Let's change the value in setCookie to something random, say deleted, and set the expiry time to 0. And redirect to login. Let's try now. The logout works. Let's look at the cookie. The value is deleted. Now, if we hit blog's URL, we get 401 with this message. And there you have it. We've seen how to integrate JWT Authentication into a Go application using Gin Gonic and GORM, making our endpoints secure and our users' data protected. We hope you found this tutorial helpful to master authentication in Go applications. Don't forget to check out other episode links in the description below. Thanks for watching and happy coding.